Hey everyone, what if I told you that you can build a full-featured dashboard without having to code yourself? Today I'm going to show you how to build this dashboard using Cline extension, Continue.dev extension, and configure them using AskCodi API. We're going to be using VS Code as our main editor, and we're going to build the whole dashboard in Next.js, Shadcn, and Tailwind, and maybe some Magic UI components to enhance the visual appeal of the dashboard. Before we start building, I'm going to show you how to configure these two extensions using AskCodi API. So let's start. We'll start with installing both these extensions in VS Code. So head over to VS Code Marketplace and search for Cline extension first. And install the extension. Then look for Continue.dev extension. The name of the extension is Continue, by the way, and install that extension as well. The next step in our process would be to configure these using AskCodi. To configure them using AskCodi, we need a few things. One would be the API key, and second would be the model. So let's start with that. Go to the AskCodi dashboard and sign up or sign in. If you don't have an account, sign up and choose whatever workspace and project that you would like to create your API key and model in. And first we're going to create our own model because we don't want to use the provider models like GPT-5 and Sonnet as is. We want to configure the models a little bit for our purpose. So let's create our first model. So I'm going to name this model Cline-Continue dashboard. I'm going to leave the description of the base model to select. So the base model to select, I'm going to choose Claude Sonnet 4. And the next step would be to add some model instructions. Since model instructions is key part of my dashboard building exercise, I have to choose a prompt that works well for my use case. If I don't want to create a prompt, then I can use Claude Sonnet 4 directly from provider models that are also provided in the model section in AskCodi. So let's add a prompt. So to add the prompt, I want to add two prompts. I don't have any current prompts created yet, so I'm gonna create a new prompt. And I want to add two prompts, so one for designing and one for coding that design properly. So the first prompt that I'm going to create is design prompt. I already have the prompt here, design, and I create the prompt. This is my first prompt is already added. The second prompt I want to add is to code. So basically a code generator, a front-end code generator, and this needs to be design aware. So that's why I've added a design prompt. Create new prompt. Maybe full stack developer. Full stack would be one of my tags, and I create the prompt. So I have two prompts in my model, and my model is ready to be used. The second thing that I want to do is create an API key to configure these models. So let's head over to API keys section and create my API key. So Cline and Continue, maybe that would be my API key. Remember, the API key can only be generated once and you cannot see it again ever, so do keep it safe somewhere. I'm going to copy my API key and save it in my project for now. Okay, so I have the AskCodi API key saved. Now the next part would be to configure the Cline and Continue.dev extension. I head over to the model section and I see my model here, the model I created right before, and I click on use, and this will show me how to use this extension in, let's say, Continue.dev. So it provides me the information what I need to add, and head over to Continue in VS Code, and here there is a default model selected, that is llama. So I want to add another model, and since AskCodi is not one of the providers, I need to make change directly in the config file. So here is the config file. So I already see how llama is configured, so I can configure my AskCodi model in the same way. So the name would be AskCodi Continue Dashboard. This would be the name, and the model name as well is also the same. The provider would be OpenAI, and I also need to add API base and API key. So here I need to paste my API key. I have my API key here, so I will copy it and paste it. Don't think I need the quotations here, and I will save the config file. And I will do the same thing for Cline extension. In Cline extension, it's much more straightforward. You don't need to make changes to the config file. You can just head over to the API provider, or you can just go to the settings and it will show you. You can choose one of the providers. I will select OpenAI compatible. The base URL, I have it here. The base URL, the API key will be the same, the model name then, and basically that's it. I just click done, and both my extensions are now configured. I don't need this file anymore, so I'm gonna delete it. So this was the setup of our Cline and Continue.dev extension using AskCodi API key. So we'll move on to the next step, that would be to use one of these extensions to create a base project or base project structure. And for that purposes, we're going to use an agentic extension, which is Cline, as it can plan and then it can act on that plan. So basically it will create a plan and step by step then execute that plan. Now to get started in building the layout of the dashboard, we're going to use a simple prompt to set up the whole project, and we're going to use Cline for that. And this is just going to initialize Next.js, Shadcn or Magic UI, and that's it. So open the Cline extension, check if properly AskCodi Cline Continue Dashboard model or the model that you have created is configured. Make sure your Cline extension is in plan mode, not in act mode, because first we need to plan it out and then it's gonna act on that plan. So I have a prompt, initialize a Next.js project with certain requirements like JavaScript, Tailwind, Shadcn and Magic UI components, and this will set up my dev server. So Cline immediately lays out a plan. So it has told me the project structure and technologies that's going to use, project init, all the things that it needs to do to initialize the project and to integrate certain things like Tailwind or other stuff like Shadcn and Magic UI. And at the end it asks me, would you like me to proceed? And if you're satisfied, you can put it into act mode. So all I have to do is put Cline into act mode. It will start implementing this plan. So since I have configured, or I haven't actually configured Cline, so it's asking me to run the command that it's saying. However, you can also configure Cline to run this command automatically. I wouldn't recommend that because sometimes you never know what AI is going to execute in your terminal. So better to have the control over yourself. So here in my terminal you can see if it's asking me a few things. Would you like to use TypeScript? We're going to use JavaScript, so I'm going to say no. And would you like your code to be inside a source directory? Yes, I would like to have my code in source. It's just a personal preference, whatever you guys want to have your project in. I don't want to use TurboPack as well. And it's gonna just install Next.js and set up my project. Now Cline is again asking me to execute another command. I'm just gonna run the commands. So notice if there are any issues while running the npm packages, it's also catching those issues and it's providing an alternate solution to handle those issues. Okay, so Cline has finished setting up the environment and all the necessary files and installing all the components that it needs to start building on. So this is my dev server. I'm gonna open the dev server and let's see what Cline has built. Yeah, so very basic Next.js, Shadcn and Magic UI components, where it just shows like, okay, this is all I have right now. Now the next step would be to build the dashboard components. So the layout of the dashboard, like we have a sidebar with certain pages, that's what I'm gonna go for next step. So for that I'm gonna add in the prompt, create a responsive dashboard layout, so that will have sidebar and certain navigation links. I will put it into plan mode again and run my prompt. One thing to notice here is that since Cline is an agentic extension, it does take a lot of tokens to execute a certain prompt. Let's say like it's gonna plan first and then it's gonna execute each and every step in the plan. So this is gonna take a lot of tokens and eventually it's gonna cost you a lot. So certain things, so basically right now I'm building the whole structure of the app, so I am gonna use agentic extension for that. But if there are certain tweaking that is to be done in a page, let's say, so for example if I want to change the colors or the theme of a page, or maybe I want to add certain cards, or maybe I want to add certain mock data, so for those use cases, instead of going for an agentic extension, it's better to go for chat extensions like Continue.dev. They will provide you a better, well, not better code, but better in terms that it's going to use less tokens, so it's going to be way more optimized than Cline extension. And the reason for that would be simply because Cline is going to read all the files, it's going to explore a little, and then it's going to start executing that plan. Whereas in Continue.dev, it just have that necessary context that, okay, I want to do this in this file, and it's just going to read that file and change or make any modifications that you have asked for it to make. So definitely chat extensions are better when you want to do smaller tweakings or small little changes where you don't need the context of the entire project. So Cline has finished planning and now we can put it into act mode, so it can start creating that dashboard. So it has already told me what sort of dashboard it's gonna use. So you can see here it is making modifications to my directory. Okay, so Cline has finished creating the dashboard and it has already ran the development server. So this is the same page. This is the landing page, so we need to move over to dashboard page. So this will be the main app section. So yeah, so as you can see, Cline has created all the pages that I've asked it to create. Since we already have our layout, the next step would be to create these pages properly, so to have relevant data within these pages. We're gonna upgrade this to create more or a better dashboard, and for that I'm gonna again ask the Cline extension to create more pages. So certain pages like billing, analytics, like analytics of the dashboard, team management, invoices. These pages are something that's common in all the dashboards, and I would also like to create them. So let's start creating them. So Cline has finished executing the plan for creating the account pages. So let's see what changes it has made. So you already immediately notice that it has already added a billing section, profile, security, and preferences section. Okay. So one thing that is missing from what I wanted it to do was have all the pages like billing and all as a drop down in the sidebar, and then you can click on profile information, billing information, and stuff like that. So we're gonna create another message or prompt for Cline to modify this behavior. So I have added the prompt to update or modify the behavior. Let's see how Cline behaves when I implement or when I ask it to change the behavior of the accounts section. Okay, so the agent has created the plan. Billing application, yeah. So this plan seems to be something that I would like to have within my dashboard application. So I'm gonna put it into act mode, and it will start executing the plan again. Now that Cline has run the dev server, we can see what changes it made. So I can already see that it has created a drop down in the accounts tab in the sidebar, and it has all the pages that I asked for it to create. So we're gonna go through all the pages one by one and check if it's all correct. Yeah, I have all the components that I need. The whole of applications was to have some sort of statistics on top and then team management section at the bottom, which it has done quite well. The invoices, so yeah, again statistics and all the invoices. Settings would be general settings like language or the app settings, basically the anything related to notifications or privacy, appearance, like everything is here. Then there would be courses. This is one section that I just wanted to create as an extra, so it will have certain cards which you can use within any other website, so you can just pick and plug or plug and play sort of a thing. Okay, so now that we have our account pages set up, next up is the e-commerce module with all the product and order information. So I already have my prompt ready. So I want to create e-commerce pages which will have product information, the new product, the product pages, and maybe referrals as well. So I want Cline extension to plan it out first. So Cline is gonna lay down a plan again, and then I'm gonna put it into act mode, and then it's gonna start executing that plan. So Cline has created a plan for me. I'm just gonna go through the plan really quickly, and then I'm gonna put it into act mode. I just want to check whether it's gonna add it into the sidebar or not. Navigation system sports drop down proven with okay. So I can put it into act mode already. Okay, so Cline has finished executing the plan and my dev server is already running. So let's see what Cline has built. Since I asked it to build the e-commerce pages, so now I have e-commerce navigation as a drop down in the sidebar. So I see all the pages that I wanted it to create, like the dashboard, the products, orders, and the referrals. So let's go through all the pages one by one and check if everything is in order. Seems like it. Yeah, nice. The orders and then the referrals. I have all the referrals. I generate a link and okay. So I have my e-commerce module created as well. Next up is the users module. So I'm gonna ask Cline to create the users module. Similar fashion, a drop down with a certain pages. So I'm gonna put Cline into act mode and then I'm gonna write my prompt, or in my case, copy or paste. And I'm gonna ask Cline to create the plan. So Cline has finished planning and now I can just go to act once I review the plan. So this was my request. So it's going to create new pages. That is all good. Okay, data structure and navigation integration. Yeah, this was the part that I want to check because this is something that it missed in the beginning. But since we are continuing the same conversation, so now it knows that I also have to do, or I also have to create a navigation component or integrate this into a navigation component and change it to a drop down sort of a field. So let's put it into act mode. So Cline has finished the execution of the plan. So let's see if it has created a users section. So I already see the users navigation drop down and I have all my 3 pages, the overview, the new user creation and the analytics or the reports. I'm just gonna go through each of these pages one by one and check out if everything is in order. So I have create new, I have a form with the progress and yeah, so I have a full form and then the analytics part or the reports, which is also complete. Next up is the applications section. So in applications, I want to create something like small apps like Kanban board. So I'm gonna put the Cline into plan mode again and ask it to add applications. So I have my prompt ready. So I'm just gonna hit, oh actually I want to plan first. Okay. So this time it's again going to create a proper navigation and all the pages that I wanted to create. 3 by 3. Okay, I can start it. Okay. So Cline has finished executing the plan. So my new pages should be ready for applications. Yeah, so I have an applications drop down with all my 4 pages. I'm going to close the users. So let's go over these one by one. So I have my 3 applications, the Kanban board, the data table and the calendar. So this is the Kanban board and I'll just try it out. Yeah, so drag and drop also works. So next is data tables. Okay, so now we have an error in the data tables, something to do with the select component of Shadcn. This was in the tables. So I have set up my Continue.dev extension. So in the extension, I'm gonna add a context, which would be the page. This is in my at the red files, and I'm gonna add one of the files. Oh, this is a lot of files. I just need to pick the one that I want. This one, tables. So I want this file as context, and I have my error here, and I'm gonna ask it to fix the error. So the issue is in the filters probably, and so I'm gonna just change the filter. Now the visible columns, which is fine. Current page is also fine. Now the filter and search data. This is the filter and search data, the match filters. So I update this as well. Match searches, which is fine. Search and filters. Okay, so I go in the code now and look for search and filters. These are the search and filters. Key value, set filters, so no can change. Okay, so this should fix the error. Let's see if this has fixed the error. Yeah, so now I also see the data tables properly. So as you can see, Continue.dev extension just use that file as context, and since I didn't want the agentic tokens to be used, so a lot of tokens are used when you run an agent, I just wanted this file as context and fix the error in this file, and this is what it did pretty much. The next page would be the calendar, and I have the calendar page as well. Now that we have our applications module complete, I want to create the profiles module. And in profiles module, I want to create specifically 3 pages. One would be the overview of the profile, one would be the settings of the profile, and the third one would be sort of like a social wall. So a newsfeed with posts and comments. So let's create it using Cline. I'm gonna give it a prompt and ask it to create a plan for that prompt. While creating the plan, Cline does read certain files that it feels like would be important to execute the said prompt. So it's going to read certain files, and then based on that, whatever it reads, it's going to create a plan, and we can act on that plan of action. Notice one thing: whenever Cline creates a plan, there is always a design consistency thing. So it does have a design prompt that I have stacked on top of my coding prompt. So that's why the design consistency is always there, and this also helps me create quick demos, fairly quick, without having to worry about the consistency, like the padding, the margin, the theme, anything like UI or UX changes. I'm just gonna quickly go over the plan. So it creates a navbar and it creates the 3 pages. So I'm gonna put it into act mode. Okay, so Cline has finished executing the command. It has run the dev server, so I already had my dev server running, so I don't need to start again. And as I can see, there is a profile drop down created in the sidebar with my 3 pages: the overview, the settings, and the newsfeed, which should be more like post and comment style. So this is my profile overview, which shows the recent activity, the profile of Alexandra Johnson with bio and achievements and skills. The settings page should show me all these things. Yeah, so I can edit this, change password. Yeah, and the next is the newsfeed, which is I post something and people comment on it. So I can even see the comments, I can like the post. So yeah, there is proper state management happening as well. Now this completes my profile module. Next up would be the authentication module. The authentication module would be similar with certain pages like sign in, sign up, and there would be verification and maybe forgot password. So I will put Cline into plan mode and type in my query and let Cline plan out the plan for creating all these pages. Okay, so Cline has created a plan for my authentication pages. I have reviewed the changes, so I'm just going to put it into act mode. So Cline has finished creating all the pages for the authentication module. It's asking me to run the command to run the dev server, but my dev server is already running. So I'm just gonna head over to my server and see if so I have authentication pages created and I have all the pages that I wanted. So I'm gonna start with the overview page, which shows the overview of the authentication. So total users, active fields. Okay, so this is sort of like the admin panel for authentication. Next up would be the sign-in page. So this component can be used directly where you want the user to sign in. The same goes for sign up. Can be picked up and added wherever you need it to be. Yeah, so this is the sign up page with terms, marketing, first name and last name. Verification. Okay, so it has created a verification page with the verification code. So there are 3 ways you can do verification as well, so that's pretty good. Last is the forgot password. So you send an email, there's a proper workflow. You send an email, you verify, you enter the password, so reset the password basically, and then complete the whole flow. So I have the authentication module completely finished just using Cline and without me having to code anything. Last up would be the others or the miscellaneous, which would be the utility pages like 404 pages. I am gonna add a few more pages into the other section. So there would be 404 error page, then there would be some chat messaging page, and one more maybe could be notifications page. So let's write our prompt. First put Cline into plan mode and then write our prompt. Once you have written the prompt, you can just hit send. So I'm gonna go through the plan that Cline has created again, just a brief overview of what it's doing. So it's gonna create these pages, notification, pricing, 404 and messages, and then it's gonna update the sidebar and it's gonna create an others module. So I'm gonna put Cline into act mode. Okay, so Cline has finished executing the plan. This is our last section that needs to be created. So let's see if it has. So I already see the others as a drop down section and all my pages, the overview, the notifications, the pricing, the 404 error and the messages are there. Actually, overview pages is something that I didn't ask it to create, I think, but it did take context from the previous query, which was for authentication, and that's why it built an overview section here as well, which does nothing, just to navigate and show certain stats. That's it. Now moving on to the main pages, the notification page, which shows the notifications, load more, the filter notifications. Yeah, so the next would be pricing. I have 3 plans with detailed instructions, testimonials and a CTA. Next is the 404 error, which is quite detailed and does go with the theme of the dashboard. And the last up is the chat screen or the messages screen, which shows up the conversation in a chat style or WhatsApp style module. So this completes our dashboard, and we created everything using Cline extension, and we also use Continue.dev extension in between to fix certain errors. And the reason for that was because Continue.dev chat extension can be, or the chat feature can be used with a smaller context, and I don't need to run the agentic operations, which can prove expensive. I will add the dashboard code to GitHub and make it open source, and link will be in the description below. If you would like to have any other project built using Cline or any other OpenAI compatible extension, then do let me know in the comments, and I will possibly try to include that in our next video. Thank you.